What could possibly be wrong with comprehensive immigration reform, they will say. What's wrong with you people? Well, you know it's broken. You're just against everything. Common education standards throughout the country. It's really easy. What's wrong with you? You don't want standards in the country? A simple little background check for when you buy a gun, and smart meters instead of dumb ones in your home to be able to run your heating and cooling system and be able to make sure that there is no rolling brownouts or blackouts. What's wrong with you people? You're against everything. Well, when you look into the details of all those wonderful sounding innovations, an awful lot can be wrong with them. But it takes looking into the details and not just accepting everything that you hear at face value. Smart meters, I mean, why would anybody oppose something that runs everything efficiently? It could save you money, and it could make you more comfortable in your home. How could this possibly be bad? Well, you have to look a little deeper than your average person, and certainly more than your mindless progressive. First of all, power companies that install smart meters will be able and have declared their intention to control the thermostat in your home, and this is just the beginning. On a hot day when you might want your home cooled to 70 degrees, they can and have already declared they will whenever they decide it's appropriate to turn up or turn off your air conditioning to save powers. If you don't have the right to control the air in your home, what do you have the right to do? Several years ago, the president alluded to this reality.
We can't drive our SUVs and, eat as much as we want and keep our homes on, 72 degrees at all times, and whether we're living in the desert or we're living in the tundra, and then just expect that every other country is going to say, okay.
You got it? You just can't expect to eat all you want or drive what you want. You can't expect to keep your thermostats on 72 degrees and expect the rest of the world just to say okay. And with smart meters, that promise is being kept. So the first issue, as with almost everything that is happening in the country now and in the world, the first issue is control. Then privacy and safety are other major concerns. These meters continually monitoring of what you do and where you are. It is guaranteed. They will have the ability to know your daily routines, when you have visitors staying with you, when you're on vacation. If you're not concerned with the power company having all of that information, or for the possibility of them turning the information over to the government, you may want to consider the potential of criminals hacking into your power company's computers. And all of this information will be stored. If you don't believe that the government will do it, just find out what they're doing this week with just your internet provider. They are saying they're going to fine your internet provider and crippling fines if they don't turn over all of the information and create a backdoor so they don't even have to have a warrant. They can go into their systems and find you and what you're doing at any given time. And the president is pushing it through. Well, if you really want to know what people are doing, if you really want to know what's going on, let's make sure we're watching them online. Let's make sure that we have all of the information we want. And let's make sure that we know when their refrigerator is being used, when their dishwasher is being used, when they shower, when they turn off their lights at night. Let's find out we can get all the information from all of their smart electronics in their house, and we know who is there. Because once we start to see there is a power increase at your house, all I have to do is now go online and search all of the people that you communicate with. And I'll start to search, and this is done automatically now. But it's only for terrorists. It automatically goes and searches everybody. Who else is on his email list? Who else does he communicate with? Has their power usage gone down in their house? Has there been a train or a plane ticket purchased in that person's name? Who's in the house with them? Now, that's all good if we're talking about a terrorist, but remember, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Or let me phrase it this way. One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. Price is yet another problem on smart meters. Rather than saving the customers money, many who have had smart meters installed actually have seen their bills skyrocket. And when I read that term, that their energy bills are skyrocketing, I thought of another promise this president made.
Under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket.
Now, I moved to Texas for a reason. Maybe America's last best hope for the preservation of freedom. But if it's not preserved in Texas, it will be preserved elsewhere. I'm happy to report that there are several states in the Republic of the United States that get it and are starting to hunker down. But I moved to Texas. But a bill was proposed in the state legislature in the Business and Commerce Committee that would allow Texans to opt out of having smart meters installed in their homes at no charge. The bill would also secure Texas power grid. Texas power grid is something strategic that is of the utmost importance. This bill would have guaranteed that the Texas power grid would remain independent and not ever be connected to another grid. Now, that's a big deal because Texas functions on its own. And when other grids, such as California's, goes down or experiencing rolling blackouts, being tied to that grid would cause Texas to suffer the same exact power outages that Californians endure because of their massive mismanagement of the state. And that state has been driven into the ground by progressives. And for us to tie into their power grid is lunacy. The bill failed in committee, and here's why. It was all thanks to 3 Republicans not showing up for the vote. These Republicans couldn't be bothered to do their jobs the constituents, the people of the great state of Texas, sent them to do, to protect and defend the great state of Texas. Here it is, one of the critical issues of our time. Forget about the power grid. Forget about the smart meter. How about the power grid? You would think that there would be Republicans that would have a spine and say, we are not going to sign up for even more infrastructure being handed over to the federal government. Was there a special episode of One Life to Live that caused them to miss something so important? Why didn't they show up? Or are they simply cowards hiding? Too afraid to man up, too afraid to stand up to the utilities in this state that wield so much power. The third possibility is they're just plain ignorant on how the smart meters work and what our power grid means. If so, they don't belong in office. If so, they're criminally negligent. Whatever the reason, these 3 pathetic Republicans, their names, Larry Taylor, Kelly Hancock, and Kevin Eltiff, need to hear from you. If you live in the great state of Texas, they need to be politely but firmly put on notice. You know what happened to the GOP last time that they thought they had it in a bag in Texas? Ted Cruz happened. Again, the names are Larry Taylor, Kelly Hancock, and Karen Eltiff. Kevin. Well, he might be a girl, are you sure? They need to be politely and firmly put on notice that when it comes time to re-elect, we will remember your name. It is inconceivable that here in Texas, of all places, a bill like this would fail. A bill that would have protected the privacy and security of Texans, kept homeowners in control of their own home, and maybe most importantly, would have helped Texas maintain its ability to stand on its own and be independent and free from the entanglements of failed states like California, whose choices, their own choices, have brought it to the brink of disaster. Now, here's the problem. There is very little chance of resuscitating this bill unless the voters of Texas can convince one of the people who voted against it to reintroduce it. But what are the odds of that? And here's why I'm bringing this to the national platform. Because while I'm talking about Texas specifically right now, the fact is this is happening all over our country. And you have to make your voice heard with Republicans as well as Democrats. At Common Core, the people in Ohio let their voice be heard. And they defeated Common Core just last week in Ohio. They defeated it in Ohio. And, you know, some of the biggest opponents that they faced? Republicans. You have to be active. You have to be informed. If we leave this battle to someone else, we lose. And if we lose America. Tell me. Please tell me. Please tell me how I'm wrong. You know, Pat said something earlier today. He said, we are there. We're really there. And it's really struck me, and I don't know what it is in the last couple of weeks. It has really struck me. Everything that I said, you're going to come a time where you won't recognize your country. What you thought was solid will be liquid. Up will be down. We're there, gang. And they are smart.